Do you ever feel like you're just doing the same thing over and over again and not getting anywhere? Well, Isaac kind of felt like that, and we're going to talk about that from Genesis chapter 26. Hey guys, and welcome back to God's Word Made Simple by Simple Servant Ministries. My name is Aaron Hawk, and if this is your first time visiting with us, I just want to say welcome and thank you for joining us today. God's Word Made Simple is an online discipleship ministry dedicated to taking God's Word and making it simple. We want to help you understand God's Word, apply it to your life, and grow in your relationship with the Lord. And by the way, if you appreciate this ministry and content, at some point make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn that bell notification to all so you don't miss any future videos. We would love to have you as part of our family. Alright guys, so let's get into the text. We're picking back up in Genesis 26 verses 18 through 25 today. So in the last video in Genesis 26, the first one, if you haven't caught it yet, catch that one here, I made the comment that they parted in peace, at least for now, or something like that. I can't remember what I said now. We're going to find out that it wasn't all peaceful. Remember what I said about them stopping up the wells because they were trying to subvert him? Well, we're going to see more of that now. And again, I'm not 100% sure if this is the same Abimelech, but I'm pretty certain it is. So let's read in verse 18. Then Isaac dug again the wells of water which had been dug in the days of Abraham his father, for the Philistines had stopped them up after the death of Abraham. So as soon as Abraham's dead, they're like, hey, free reign, we can get these guys out of here. And then Isaac turns out to be so prosperous. They weren't expecting that. So as soon as Abraham was dead, they started subverting Isaac and going back on their covenant with Abraham because, hey, Abraham was dead, right? And he gave them the same names which his father had given them. Verse 19, but when Isaac's servants dug in the valley and found there a well of flowing water, so this was a new well, the herdsmen of Gerar quarreled with the herdsmen of Isaac, saying, the water is ours. Now, it may sound silly to quarrel over water, and, well, you'd be surprised how much that happens even today. You may or may not know this, but I have worked with the police. I was an explorer, and then I've done some training for them and different things like that over the years. So I've worked with the police for years now. And I remember one of the times that I was on a call with one of the officers. We're in downtown area of the city that we lived in, and it's a fairly rough area. And we had been call after call after call stacked upon each other, and we had gotten in, I think was it Taco Bell or Burger King? I can't remember. We had finally gotten to food. It's like 10, 11 o'clock at night. We hadn't eaten dinner because we had so many calls stacked up on us. And so we're getting ready to have food finally. We're in the drive-up line and we get a call. It's like, oh, here we go again. And the call was about some stolen property and somebody being threatened or something, right? Well, unfortunately, the person had just lied to get us there quicker. Now, mind you, I'm not saying the woman was wrong for calling the police. People were on her property when they should not have been, and they were stealing. But in that moment, when we were trying to get food, what the call ended up being was that her next door neighbor or someone had come and filled up a 1-gallon bucket of water from the spigot on her backyard, or in her backyard. Now, mind you, this was a rough neighborhood, so I'm not discounting the fact that somebody had stolen from her and trespassed on her land, both of which are crimes. If somebody was doing that to me, I would make things right as well. I wouldn't want somebody doing that to me. So I'm not making light of what happened, but when you're in a crime-ridden area and a lot of the calls are domestics and stabbings and shootings and gang stuff, a bucket of water is well, we had to laugh afterward, I'll put it that way. Right? So it still happens in the modern day, and I share that story, I think, mostly just because it's funny and it came to mind and sort of applies, but in an arid environment, when you're trying to raise livestock, even in a fruitful place like America, where it's not an arid environment in most of America, water rights are important. And in an arid environment, they are that much more important. That's why there is so much fighting over water in these stories. So it's not, and granted, I shouldn't be laughing at that woman either, and I don't mean it that way. It's just the bucket of water, one bucket of water compared to all of the other crimes at that moment. But anyway, if you work in the first responder world, you understand dark humor and you understand exactly where I'm coming from on that, and you're laughing with me. If you don't, you're judging me. So let's move on from there. But regardless, they were quarreling over the water, and the herdsman said, "This water is ours." So he named the well Esek, which means contention, because they contended with him. Then they dug another well, and they quarreled over it too, so he named it Sitnah, which means enmity. So he's being comical with the names at least. Verse 22, he moved away from there and dug another well, and they did not quarrel over it. So he named it Rehoboth, meaning broad places, or the Lord has made room for me, in other words. There's broad places available to me. For he said, at last the Lord has made room for us. I guess I should have read the rest of the verse. That is what it meant. You just saw that, right? That's funny. So he named it Rehoboth, for he said, at last the Lord has made room for us, and we will be fruitful in the land. Now again, why is this so important? Well, one, you need water just to survive, but also remember from the last time how wealthy he had become. And in this culture, much of your wealth was determined by the livestock that you had. Well, livestock is not like collecting gold. You can leave gold sit, and as long as it doesn't get stolen, it retains and even increases value. You can't leave an animal sitting or it will die. It needs to be fed, it needs water, it needs medical care and all that stuff, right? That's probably part of the reason that livestock is the status symbol for wealth in these cultures. So verse 23, then he went up from there to Beersheba. The Lord appeared to him the same night. So he has finally stopped all this quarreling. He's found his broad places, and now the Lord appears to him. I think this is the first time that God has appeared to Isaac. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure this is the first time God has appeared to Isaac. So verse 24, the Lord appeared to him the same night and said, I am the God of your father. Do not fear, for I am with you. And this would lend me to believe that this is for sure. I'm 99% sure on my own this is the first time, but this seems to indicate that that is correct. Otherwise, he wouldn't be introducing himself. For I am with you. So he's reaffirming to Isaac that the same promises given to Abraham are his as well. And I've kind of already talked about this. I will bless you and multiply your descendants for the sake of my servant Abraham. So God is calling upon that past relationship and saying, look, even just for Abraham's sake, I'm doing this. Verse 25, so he built an altar there and called upon the name of the Lord and pitched his tent there, and there Isaac's servants dug a well. So he's like, okay, God, you appeared to me here. I am setting down roots right here. And that would be some good advice to take, right? When God works in our life and he puts us somewhere where we can grow, it is wise for us to stay there until God tells us to move. Sometimes we defeat ourselves with our nomadic bent of just wanting to go everywhere and do everything. Kind of like the classic thing that you hear pastors at least talk a lot about is church hoppers, right? They get bent out of shape about some little something here or some little something there, and they just go from church to church to church. And it's like, oh, you got them this week? Don't worry about it. They'll be back next week. And if you don't know that pastors talk that way, sorry, a lot of them do, because this is a real thing that you have to deal with all the time. By the way, if you haven't caught it before, I did a video on the top 5 things to look for when you're looking for a new church. And then I also did a separate video, the top 5 mistakes people make when looking for a new church. So check those videos out as well. So guys, that is it. This is a short video for today. This is just a connecting passage between the 2 main points of this chapter. So there's a lot here that I could go in, but for our purposes, I'm going to end it here today. So if you appreciate this ministry and this content, hey, make sure you hit like, subscribe, turn that bell notification to all so you don't miss any future videos. If you want to support this ministry, one of the best ways to do that is to share this video with somebody. Either share it on any social media account around any or all of your social media accounts or specifically to someone that you think might benefit from it. And if you want to support us directly, there is a link down in the description. And remember, this is a nonprofit ministry, so all gifts are tax deductible. Guys, thank you very much, and God bless.